It has been less than a year since I bought PhotoLab 8, and in that short amount of time, I have come to consider it absolutely indispensable. If you're unfamiliar with PhotoLab 8, it's a development tool very similar to Lightroom or Capture One. In a normal workflow working with earthbound photos, you would typically use software like PhotoLab 8, Lightroom, or Capture One to perform such functions as color and light balancing, sharpening refinement, and denoising. And then you would take the image into tools like Affinity Photo or Photoshop if you needed to do anything special with the image, such as add a special effect. However, in an astrophotography workflow, I have found that it is best to go the opposite way. Layer-based photo editors such as Affinity Photo and Photoshop give much more refined and precise control of the distinct steps of development. So with astrophotography, my workflow happens in reverse. I do all the initial development of an astrophoto in Affinity Photo, and then I take it into PhotoLab 8 for finishing touches. I found through experimentation that way just works better with astrophotography. But when I say finishing touches, I do not want to give the impression that PhotoLab 8 makes very small fine adjustments that are almost unnoticeable. By finishing touches, I mean that I can accomplish things in PhotoLab 8 that are difficult to impossible to accomplish in Affinity Photo. They aren't minor, and they can make the difference between a good photo and a great photo. Let me give you a quick example that I think illustrates what I mean well. On the left is an image of Messier 82, wherein the development has been pushed as far as possible with Affinity Photo. And on the right, the same image has been taken after development in Affinity Photo and refined further with PhotoLab 8. In this third image, this is the image that was refined with PhotoLab 8 put back in Affinity Photo with HA information added to it. As you can see, when working together, these tools make a powerhouse. Today, I'm going to walk you through the tools in PhotoLab 8 that apply well to astrophotography. Learning photo development tools I find is like learning musical instruments. You learn theory and practice application. So in this video, we'll cover the PhotoLab 8 tools that best apply to astrophotography. And in the next part of this mini-series on PhotoLab 8, we'll refine the development of a notoriously challenging DSO, Messier 82. Now before we go any further, I mentioned Capture One and Lightroom earlier, but I don't want to give the impression you can use them just as well as PhotoLab 8. I've used both Lightroom and Capture One in the past, and they do wonderfully with terrestrial photos, images that we shoot right here on Earth. But I find they don't do so well with astrophotography, often introducing all kinds of problems. But the tools in PhotoLab 8 somehow work beautifully with astrophotography, almost as if the software was designed with that in mind. Alright, let's jump in. When PhotoLab 8 opens, it will show in a RAW, JPEG, or TIFF file in whatever folder is selected. Click on an image and it will appear in the viewing area. This, of course, is M82 with the surrounding ejecta. I have all the information I'll need to make this video and the next one in that folder. Though the keen-eyed among you may notice I have the wrong HA information in that folder. That's M81's HA information. My fault, but don't worry, I'll bring in the right HA information later. Anyway, there's our star plate, and here's our starless image. To work on an image, all we have to do is go from Photo Library mode to Editing mode. I can either double-click on the image, or click the blue Customize button up top left. The right side is divided into a column which presents 6 panels. You can switch between any panel at any time by clicking on one of the buttons on the top right. The left button opens up the Light panel. Here you can find basic and essential editing tools, and the first is Exposure Adjustment. It works much like any exposure adjustment. Slide left for a darker exposure and right for a brighter exposure. Below that is the very interesting DxO Smart Lighting option. This applies a very sophisticated AI or algorithm to balance the lighting available in the image. When I turn it on, you can see that it immediately illuminates those erupting gases for which the M82 galaxy is famous. But it's not selective. It illuminates everything around the M82 galaxy as well. Some of that is IFN, and some of that may be that it's mistaking residual light from clusters of stars as areas needing further illumination. I find the smart lighting option is great for illuminating large nebulae that fill the screen, but not for small galaxies. The smart lighting often doesn't seem to know quite what to do with the space surrounding more distant, smaller galaxies. By using smart lighting's spot-weighted option, however, you can have it be more selective about what it illuminates. If you're in a rush to develop something, this could be handy. You just draw a square around the area that you want it to focus on illuminating. But still, I think in an astro image there are better and more precise ways to illuminate a particular area of an image, even though this is definitely an improvement over the uniform smart lighting option. If you shoot an image where your goal is to bring out dim structure like IFN, the smart lighting option is very, very powerful for helping to bring it out. Of course, if there's another DSO in that image, you're going to have to figure out how to keep it from blowing out that DSO, but that is possible. It would be a topic for another video. The next tool is the selective tone sliders. They are divided into highlights, midtones, shadows, and blacks. And their use is very straightforward. You would slide the highlights tool up to brighten the brightest regions of the image and slide it down to dim them. The same with the midtones, the shadows, and the blacks. However, these tools are deceptively powerful, and one of the interesting things about them is that, unless pushed extremely hard, they resist banding. That is to say, you won't see clear areas of division between, say, highlights and midtones, or shadows or blacks for that matter. In other applications, I never touch these types of tools for making brightness adjustments. But the tool is so powerful in PhotoLab 8 that I'm sure it's the one that I use most commonly. The next tool is Clearview Plus. It's unique to PhotoLab 8 and I use it all the time. This is a very interesting, very powerful tool which combines contrast, fine contrast, and micro contrast features, and possibly even some brightening and darkening features to enhance contrast in a way that, when used judiciously, is also very good at defining detail. It can easily overpower an image though, just like this, making it look crunchy and overdeveloped. I will often incorporate the Clearview Plus tool by lifting it just 1 to 3 points, and then combining it with PhotoLab 8's fine contrast and unsharp mask tools. When handled this way, PhotoLab 8 can accomplish extremely effective refined additional sharpening of an image. PhotoLab 8's contrast collection is a deceptively powerful sharpening tool. The top slider is much like your typical contrast, but below that is a micro contrast slider bar. Making changes to it will refine the edges of small structures. It's very useful and powerful for terrestrial development, but for astrophotography, it can be somewhat heavy-handed, especially in dark regions of an image. The fine contrast slider option below that, though, is extremely useful for astrophotography. It gently but effectively refines the detail of the minuscule yet dim structures of which astrophotographs are typically made. Unless things have changed at DxO since I bought PhotoLab 8, you have to get the add-on Film Pack 7 to get the fine contrast feature. To me, it's worth it though, because the add-on also allows for creating better monochrome images. We'll cover that in a bit. And it also supplies a very powerful luminosity local adjustments tool, which is useful to the point of being essential for astrophotography. It also provides these advanced contrast settings down here, with which you can select the tones that the contrast adjustments apply to. This is very useful because space and dark regions of an image are information poor, and therefore they are easily reduced to crunchiness by sharpening tools such as micro and fine contrast. The film pack is not cheap at $140 USD, but it's often on sale for as little as half that. And one of the great things about buying DxO is you don't have to keep paying for it every month like a certain other company. Once you have it, it's yours and you can use it for years. Essentially, until photographic technology advances so much that the software you have no longer works with it. And if you're a previous license holder, DxO gives deep discounts when you upgrade. Finally, we'll take a look at the Curves tool, which works much like the Curves tool to be found in PixInsight and Affinity Photo, and probably most other photo developers as well. But this is a Curves tool where pretty much everything you could want in a Curves tool has been included. In the top left of the toolbox, you can see that you can work either in combined RGB or RGB channel separately or luminance channel. You can make changes to the curve graphically by clicking and dragging it, or you can make changes numerically by typing a number into any of the boxes to the left or below the histogram. You can also click the up and down arrows there to make changes. You can refine gamma by clicking and dragging the slider bar, and you can click that little icon that looks a bit like a pointing hand and place it at any point on an image and adjust the combined RGB or luminance or the separate RG and B channels by clicking and dragging and moving up and down. And the Curve tool will show you where on the curve that you're adjusting before you click and drag. Let's go to our color panel. In the row top right, it is second from the left, the 3 circles interweaving. In the very top of the column, you can pick your color space. I tend to stick with DxO wide gamut as it covers the complete range of color, which my complete display P3 color space monitor handles well. And you can use the drop-down menu to pick whatever color space your monitor works best with. In the white balance area, you can adjust your color temperature if necessary. It's much like the white balance in many other tools. White balance is a very basic tool. Left to cool, or shift the image toward blue, and right to warm, or shift the image toward red. The color black and white tool, I won't go much into it. It's a very easy and convenient way to switch an image to black and white. It's easy enough, of course, to make an image black and white simply by desaturating it entirely. But modern cameras and software aren't really built for black and white imaging, and that can introduce different problems. It won't make a bad image, but it won't make the best monochrome image either. Here you can adjust the appearance of your monochrome images, and if you have the DxO Film Pack 7, you can have DxO emulate old monochrome films to get an even better appearance. The LUT and style panels do not really apply to astrophotography, so I'll skip them. Below them is the HSL tool, which, to be honest, is the most powerful and well-conceived HSL tool I have ever seen. It's very straightforward, and you can do pretty much anything with it. It's just amazing. At the top of the HSL box, you'll see the word channel and 8 colors plus a white circle beside it. You can pick any one of those channels up there, then adjust its tinting by grabbing the little icon on the outside of the outer color wheel. This allows you to make subtle but significant adjustments in the coloration of your images. You can also adjust those colors by saturation, vibrance, luminance, and uniformity. Saturation is the intensity of color, but vibrancy in PhotoLab 8 works a bit differently from vibrance in a tool like Affinity Photo. It is designed to protect skin tones and the color blue, such as the blue of a sky. However, much like Affinity Photo, this results in a tool that tends to saturate weaker colors, so it can be useful for strengthening weaker colors, with less risk of saturation clipping them. Luminance controls the appearance of a color's brightness, and the uniformity tool is very interesting. It controls the strength of the appearance of a color by brightness across an image. Moving it up causes all the appearance of a certain color to become brighter together, and moving it down causes more individual distinction of areas of brightness within a certain color range. You'll see this demonstrated later on when we get into developing my image of Messier 82. There is also the very powerful color picker tool right in the center of the color wheel. You can select the picker and then click on your image anywhere, and the exact range of color in that location will be selected within the color wheel. This allows you to make very precise color adjustments within an image. And below that we have the channel mixer slider bars. It allows you to control the appearance of black or white in any selected color channel. Very often unnecessary for developing astrophotography images, but sometimes useful, especially if a certain region of an image is proving to be very difficult for reasons related to the specific qualities of that image. You might make adjustments in this area for that specific region, export the image, and then layer on that specific area back onto the whole image in a layer-based photo editor later on. PhotoLab 8 has an excellent retouching tool that works pretty similarly to Affinity Photo's in-painting brush. You paint over an area that you want to remove, and the software will find and select an area of the same size nearby and then clone that part of the image into the area that you wanted to remove. It makes very smooth, almost seamless corrections. But let's say that it happens to incorporate something in the correction that you don't want, like here, where that little galaxy has also been included with the clone. You can just drag the cloned region into a different area, and that's what will be copied over into your correction area. The next thing on this panel of interest to astrophotographers is the unsharp mask. PhotoLab 8 has a ridiculously good unsharp mask, by which I mean, no matter how hard I try pushing it, it doesn't devolve an image into crunchiness, not even around the borders of an image. In its own documentation, it says that it can, but I just haven't seen that yet, and I've often pushed it to the maximum just to see what would happen. As with most unsharp mask tools that I'm familiar with, increase the intensity to darken the boundary around fine structure, which is what makes the unsharp mask appear to make images sharper, and increase the radius to broaden the border around those fine structures, which makes definition appear heavier. If that seems unclear, think of it like this. Imagine drawing a picture with a pencil, and you're outlining the areas of detail with a very light touch, so the definition is light and the lines are thin. But then you get to thinking, maybe the definition is too light and the detail isn't showing up well enough. So you apply more pressure on the pencil, which darkens everything that you draw. That's the equivalent of increasing the intensity. But it also presses deeper into the paper, which broadens the lines you are drawing with the pencil. And that's what it's like to increase the radius. The threshold slider sets a value above which detail will be sharpened. In other words, detail has to be brighter than the threshold value. This is a good way to prevent the unsharp mask from sharpening dim noise. And it works because often noise prefers to appear in dim areas. The edge offset is not something an astrophotographer is likely to need to use. It applies additional unsharp mask sharpening to the edges of an image, and is mostly used to compensate for ordinary cameras that have lenses with soft edges. The next two areas are geometry and watermark and effects. The geometry tab is used to warp an image in small ways, and it's mostly used by real estate photographers who are shooting in small spaces such as inside houses, and they're trying to make those small spaces look roomy, so they use wide-angle lenses, but the wide-angle lenses distort lines within the image. For astrophotographers, this section has no practical use. There is a little parlor trick you can do with this section, and that's make an image look like you're looking at it from the side, but it's not something I ever do unless I'm producing a video with an odd special effect, so I'm going to skip over that. And the watermark and VFX section is likewise a section that is made for other kinds of photography, with the exception of the watermark, which you can use to put a signature on your images to mark them as your own. Many times people think those kind of watermarks secures their images against theft. It doesn't. Any skilled photographer could remove that in seconds. I mean, it would take me seconds to remove any watermarks, so anyway, it doesn't really apply to developing astrophotography, so I'm going to skip it as well. The final panel is the local adjustments. This area contains PhotoLab 8's extremely powerful methods for confining edits to specific areas of an image. PhotoLab 8 offers 8 such methods, and they are surprisingly straightforward. The first method uses control points. I can click on the control points icon, then click anywhere on the image that I need to make a specific adjustment, and the control point appears as a small dot with a circle around it. What the control point wants to adjust the most depends on where I place it, and I can help it home in on the kind of luminance and color information that it will adjust by adjusting the chroma and luma sliders to the side. Moving luma up, for example, will incline the control point to restrict its edits to specific ranges of brightness, and moving luma down will incline the control point to broaden its adjustments to a wider range of brightness. The same with the chroma slider. Moving the chroma slider up restricts adjustments to certain colors, and moving it down broadens the adjustments to a wider range of colors. This tool works in layers. The layer box is right here. As long as I am operating on the same layer, I can click elsewhere on the image, and PhotoLab 8 will add more control points with the same characteristics to that area. In other words, those control points will affect the same range of chroma and luma. So let's say that I want to brighten the gases that are erupting out of the galactic north and south of M82. But the central region of the galaxy is already very bright. I don't want to brighten it. I can hold down Alt and click between the two control points, inserting negative control points there. These negative control points keep out the adjustments that are effected within the control points. And you can tell a negative control point because it has a little minus sign right beside the control point. If I want to always see what my mask is going to affect, I can click the mask to stay on. All I have to do is move the mouse to the top right corner of the viewing screen and click on Show Masks. Color masks are useful because you can see through them more easily. But if the subject you're masking is about the same color as the mask, it can be hard to tell what's subject and what's mask. But you can click the mask color to open a window to change the color of the mask to anything you want. But an even more powerful way to review what areas a mask is going to affect is to switch to black and white mode. This takes color out of the picture and shows only luminosity, making the appearance of masked versus unmasked areas really stand out, as here. The next two local adjustment masks are control line and graduated filter. They mainly have to do with making adjustments to images with horizons and dealing with things like sunrises and sunsets. For astrophotographers, those two local adjustment types have little to no application, so we'll skip over them. Next is the luminosity mask though, and it's extremely powerful. Unfortunately, you'll need to get the DxO Film Pack 7 for this one. But in my opinion, it's absolutely worth it, and given the amount of money that we astrophotographers spend on things like mounts and telescopes, to me this is a small one-time expense. Using the luminosity mask, you can select areas of the image by brightness. Pick an area with a certain brightness you're looking for, and all areas sharing that brightness range around the image will be affected. Let's say that I want to reduce the illumination of those extremely bright areas within the cigar galaxy. I select the luminosity mask, click on one of those bright areas, and poof, it's done. Now let's say I decide that I don't want to dim just those areas, but the surrounding extremely bright areas so it all blends in together and the adjustment looks more natural. On the right, I can select areas to adjust, either by using the pre-designated luminosity bands or with the range sliders. With the brightness that I want to adjust set, I can then make adjustments in the selected tone sliders, and those adjustments will only affect the area within the luminosity mask. And if you're having a hard time telling if you've hit the right area of luminosity to adjust, just switch to black and white and continue making your adjustments. But let's say that you only want to select a certain color range within your image. Just select the hue mask right beside the luminosity mask, and then click on your image where that particular color happens to appear. By the way, I'm scrolling in with the mouse, it's pretty straightforward. And just like with the luminosity local adjustments, you can further refine your color selection to effect with the color channel and slider tool. If you have an image with clearly defined edges, you can use the Auto Mask tool. We don't have that here, so it doesn't do too well. But if you do have an image with clearly defined edges, the Auto Mask tool kind of combines a painting tool with a selection tool. But for DSO development, I never use it. Occasionally, however, you may want to use the next tool, the Paint Local Adjustment tool. Use Ctrl mouse scroll to widen the brush, and Shift mouse scroll to control its hardness. Then left-click and drag to paint over whatever area you want to affect. Beside that, there's an Erase option, and you can use the Erase option to erase masking from many local adjustment tools except the control points. So that's the introduction to the tools within PhotoLab 8. There are many more tools, but these are the ones that apply very well to astrophotography. In the next video, we'll apply the knowledge you have gained in this video to developing Messier 82. While I would love to cover it now, it would make this video an hour long. But it is really worth learning, and I think well worth getting PhotoLab 8, because having it is the difference between this, which is a good astrophoto, and this, which is a great astrophoto. So we'll get into part 2 of this video in just a few days. As always, thank you for watching, and if you have any thoughts, observations, or questions, please let me know in the comments section. And regardless of whatever hardware and software that you're using to shoot astrophotography, the main thing is, you learn something, you produce something that you're proud of, and you have fun in the doing. Now, get out there and shoot that amazing sky.